Welcome to another edition of Engineering Influence, a podcast from the American Council of Engineering Companies. And welcome to eWeek 2021. This year, we are celebrating virtually between February 21st. First day started yesterday on Sunday, and it continues on through the 27th, this coming Saturday, a celebration of engineering, engineers, STEM, everything to do with engineering and trying to get students to get engaged with STEM, also to promote really the essential role that engineers do play in society, and of course our members who are designing the built environment, and taking a look at that work and trying to get it out to a larger audience. And to talk about eWeek this year, I am joined by Thea Shar. She is the Director of Communications and Programs for Discover E, the organizer of eWeek, and a partner. We partner with Discover E on programs, and of course, this is one of the biggest ones that we work with them on. You're going to be seeing a lot of stuff coming out from us this week, but wanted to welcome Thea on to talk about eWeek this year, the challenges of going virtual, and what to expect. So Thea, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. So this is the week. This is where all the planning now, we get to see the results of it.
It's all happening, and I think But we don't want people to think this is the only time of year that they can celebrate engineers or engage students in engineering. This is really just an opportunity for all of us to go, hey, wait, let's think for a minute. Let's reflect and let's plan and build and grow for the whole year, because
Absolutely.
It's always a good day to celebrate your members and engage the next generation of innovators.
Absolutely. It's every day should be an engineer's day. And everything that you see and touch during a day is an engineer played a role in making that happen. And we should always remember that. So this year is a little bit more challenging than previous ones, because one of the best things about eWeek is when a firm does something for younger students and gets them together and has that physical experience of showing them how a bridge is built or taking them through a process. And we can't do that this time because COVID. How has your approach changed this year?
So we are on an annual cycle, right? So we spend the year planning and creating resources and working with our partners to figure out what they need and developing our programs. So COVID hit right at the beginning of our planning period last year. So last March was really an opportunity for us to pivot and start working with the engineering societies and corporate partners that are in our coalition, and really talking about, oh my goodness, what is virtual outreach? Oh my goodness, how do we make sure that in that environment we are still being as inclusive to students from a rich variety of backgrounds? And so we did a lot of soul searching, and really what we wanted to make sure of, when it really boils down to it, when we think about the research, when we think about what works and where the magic happens, it's where that engineer or technical professional can actually meet students, right? I live in Boston. It's really hard not to meet an engineer around here. Yeah. But in a lot of places around the country, that's not the case. Mm-hmm. So those engineers being role models and, showing kids and embodying what the work is the most important part. Yeah. So we really started to think about that and restructure Engineers Week. We created a guide that anyone can download on discovere.org called Setting Up a Virtual Visit, right? What's involved? What does that look like? How do you Zoom in or Teams in or, meet up with students? What does that look like? And we hosted a webinar in January that anyone is more than welcome to listen in on. It's on the Engineers Week page of our website, and had two amazing panelists who have been doing virtual. One had been doing virtual outreach all year, and the other had been planning, and they had great tips about you might want to think about mailing the materials to the kids or having a drop-off area or thinking about who you want to reach. So I think that, after spending a lot of time thinking about this and planning for it, there's been a lot of opportunities to really think about what we do and how we do it. And what are the pieces that when we get back to our new normal, what pieces of virtual will we keep? What pieces of in-person will we keep? And how do those two come together? Because I think the virtual does give us an opportunity to reach kids in more rural areas or more underserved areas, to go out to some of those communities and expand your time, right? We're all so busy.
Yeah.
So anyway, I can ask your next question because I can talk.
No, I understand. We found that ourselves. I mean, when we were faced with, our primary objectives is advocacy, and then all of a sudden you can't have in-person lawmaker visits. So how's this going to translate to a virtual environment? And what we found, similar to your experience, is that while it does unveil some challenges and some limitations, it does allow more people to access a virtual environment. You can have a lot more people in a meeting than you can physically. And the same goes with eWeek. It allows, I think, our firms, our members, engineers across the country to reach out to underserved areas and populations. And I think that was another issue. I remember in one of the meetings that we had earlier in the year, 2020 was a really important year when it came to looking at issues related to equity. That's something else which I think with a virtual environment, you were able to reach into communities that aren't served in the face-to-face meetings and kind of introduce them.
Yeah.
Don't get introduced to it.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's that's been the other piece that we've really been talking a lot about this year. We've been talking a lot about diversity and inclusion for a long time. And in fact, in 2019, we released research called Despite the Odds, why women and girls choose engineering and women stay in engineering. And what was fascinating is what we found was, a sense of belonging, strong support networks, having a strong STEM identity, having resilience. Those key factors are as equally important for boys of color and women in color as they are for women. So anybody who is not in the majority, it's really how do we create that sense of belonging and how do we create that sense of welcomeness. So we've been, again, looking at what we do and how we do it. And a lot of the research is pointing to role models that look like you, and culturally based, authentic problems that kids can solve. So like our Future City program, we know for years now that 50% of our students are girls, 33% are underserved populations, and we don't do any special marketing. And it's that quintessential question to ask middle schoolers, create and design a city that exists 100 years in the future. This year, they're creating it on the moon, by the way.
There you go.
And what we're really asking them, the tricky part of this, we're putting in some broccoli there, right? They're building a city of the future, but they're imagining their own futures at the same time. And they're trying on engineering, and they're trying on all of the different careers that are they're being exposed to, and they're thinking about their own value system, what's important to them in the future. Yeah. So as we think about diversity and inclusion, it's thinking about how do we help kids think about their own futures, and how do we make them feel like, not even make them feel, how do we show them that we're interested in them, we're interested in what they have to say, that we value them, we value their voices. And that's going to go a long way in helping us create environments that are welcoming to our traditional audiences, to our traditional engineers and to our non-traditional engineers, because, the research is in, you need a diverse pool of people solving the world's problems to get the best solutions.
Absolutely. And one of the things that we're as an organization looking at and as part of our strategic plan is diversity and inclusion. And it's bringing, widening the tent as far as not just people being hired onto firms, but going into firm leadership, which is something else of importance, because the more diverse set of voices you have at leadership, you're able to influence the built environment. And because our member firms are designing the built environment, essentially, they're creating the spaces where society interacts. They're creating the spaces where we kind of form our social cohesion. Mm-hmm. And they can lead that charge to create a more equitable landscape that breaks down those physical barriers that allow people or have prevented people in the past from taking part in economic growth and opportunity or mobility, physical mobility of getting point A to B, and also economic mobility and social mobility. Mm-hmm. It's a good time this week to kind of look back and reflect on exactly the role that the profession and the industry has for society, and the voice that is there that can be unleashed.
And we have 2 resources, free resources for your members to consider when they're thinking about diversity and inclusion, and what piece of the, I always talk about if all of us pick up our 1 grain of sand and, mm-hmm. and move it forward, then that mountain is going to be moved. It's not one organization. It's not one person that's going to change our culture. It's all of us kind of working together and doing our little part. So we are, during Engineers Week, Tuesday, the 23rd at noon Eastern time, we're going to be hosting a panel discussion on how do we create inclusive STEM experiences. And so we'll have 3 panelists who represent different areas of engineering that are underrepresented. And they'll be talking about their experiences and also talking about what are things that we all can do and what are things we should be thinking about. What part can we play? And then the other opportunity is our Persist series, and that is a monthly series where we interview a woman who is, in her career. On March 10th, we're going to be interviewing someone from Deepwater Shell, and she's going to be talking about how she has really made it in a very traditionally male environment and area. And her mentor is going to be joining her, and other females, and they're going to be talking about how they did it, how they supported each other, and then what are the things that they've learned along the way that the women and their allies who are listening in can take away. And what's been amazing about these conversations is we schedule them for an hour, and the questions just roll in from the audience, and the chat is just crazy. And so we end up always going over that hour, not on purpose. We try and keep it there, but the conversation is so riveting.
And that shows the interest. I mean, that's the thing, right? It's not as though there's no interest on that. I mean, we had our first ever multi-session course on diversity and inclusion in the workplace, and we filled up, and we had to do another course, and that filled up, and then we're looking at doing another, because we realized that there's a demand here, we're talking about firms that are small, small firms to your mid-size. Everybody wants to get in on this conversation.
It fills me with hope and optimism. I think people, we know what we need to do, or we know that we need to be thinking about it and trying it on and seeing what we can do to play our part in making a difference and making a change. And that's what I say. I was in, I started my career in STEM education on the science side at a museum of science. And And it was great, science and math and technology is fun, but engineering I love because that's where the solutions, right? You take all the information and that's where you make the solution, you make the change, you make the product. And so that's what I think is so exciting about the field.
Absolutely. I mean, it is that solution side of things. It's taking the science, it's taking the math, it's taking all these different innovations that are happening around us and integrating them into a solution, whether it's for a public sector client, whether it's for a private sector client. It really makes no difference. It's really facing monumental challenges with creative solutions, and that should attract a broad spectrum of people to get engaged with it. And it's good that younger cohort of STEM students who are in high school and college are bringing with them this broader perspective.
Yes.
And it's up to the industry to reflect that and to retain that talent, because you won't retain the talent if you don't reflect the population.
Right. And their values.
Absolutely. So right now, I mean, we're going to put in a lot of this information onto the show notes, links, resources that Discovery is making available. But for firms out there that are looking at ways that they can increase their community involvement or increase their CSR operations, it's a wealth of information, tactics, tools, resources that Discovery E has available. And we really encourage them to take a look at it, because if you're looking and saying, okay, we want to get engaged with the E-Week, or we want to get engaged with trying to help kids get involved in STEM, where do we start? Mm-hmm. Discovery is a great resource for where to start and how you can get a program ramped up. Mm-hmm. So it really encourage everyone to take a look at the site.
Yeah, and there's easier, so Future City is probably the easiest way for your local companies to get involved, because they can encourage their employees to be mentors and judges. It's a built-in program that's being offered around the U.S. And they can get more involved at the sponsorship level or at the program planning level too. We're always looking for help there. Engineers Absolutely. Week is great to look at, what do you want to do as a firm to celebrate your employees? And what do you want to do to engage your local community? Is there a school nearby that you want to adopt, right? That's another really easy way to start, is just going into a local school or a local Boys and Girls Club or after school program. Could be your kids program, right? There's a great story of a fellow who used to work at Lockheed Martin, and when his son was born, because he's an engineer, right? So he was thinking long term when his son was born.
He's planning ahead 5 years from now.
He did. He said, I don't know what's happening in the local school system. I know we're not moving, because we had their 10-year housing plan all mapped out. So he went to the local school and got involved. And by the time his first child was in kindergarten, he had this robust volunteer program going on. And during Engineers Week, he got his college involved. So all of the undergrads were coming in during the week. I mean, that's a kind of an extreme story, but you start small. You think about, what little piece do you want to affect?
Absolutely. It doesn't take a lot. I mean, it's the idea, like you said, that grain of sand. You get enough grains of sand, you start building that mountain. It's the idea that small change can have a big lasting impact. And we all have the ability to do it.
Yep. And we're here to help you. We won't actually do it for you, because there's only 6 of us. But like Jeff said, there's a ton on there. You want to do an event. We have an event planning guide. You want to do a girl day. We have girl day resources. You want to do activities. We have 150 different activities you can filter by discipline. So if you're interested in civil or environmental or mechanical, or you want to, the teacher says, oh, I need an activity on sound, you can filter it by age and stage. So just a plethora of stuff out there to help you think about what you want to do.
Well, we are going to have a lot of content going out this week. Pay attention to our social channels, Last Word blog, the website, our email. We have examples of firms that are holding events throughout the week virtually. We have some stories from our executive committee on their perspective about how they got into engineering and why it's important. We're going to be showcasing articles and a lot of what's being sent out through Discover E as well. So there is a lot out there to take advantage of. And we really do encourage our member firms that if you are taking part in anything related to Engineers Week or anything related to helping your communities and getting kids involved in STEM or even professional development activities with your own employees, to promote that and let us know, and also let Discover E know, because it's a team effort at the end of the day, and we can really get our word out there if we kind of work together. So Thea, also on Thursday the 25th, there's Girl Day, which is hashtag Girl Day 2021. You'll see that on social media. Introduce a Girl to Engineering. And you also have an event tied to that called Chats with Changemakers. What can you go into that a little bit more?
Sure. And this ties back to what I was saying earlier about what we felt like we really needed to make sure happened, is bringing that engineer together with a student. And so, and that can't happen all the time, but we could bring the power of the Discover Engineering Coalition together. So we roped in a Future City alumni, Tiffany. She's in 10th grade in Texas. She's still, she's fine.
That's good.
And once a month, she has a half-hour chat with an engineer. So she has talked with engineers who are developing spacesuits. She has talked to engineers who are working on earth dams. She has talked to engineers who are building footbridges in rural communities. And this Thursday at noon Eastern time, she will be talking to Joan Higginbotham, who is a retired astronaut and electrical engineer. And there's something magical about astronauts, because we have more registrations for this Chats with Changemakers. And then Joan will be issuing a engineering challenge to students, to anyone listening. And it's just paper and paper clips and some tape. So again, everything is something kids would have around the house. But if you have always wanted to know what it takes to be an astronaut, or your kids, or your neighbors, just spread the word. It's free. It's also we'll be broadcasting it live on YouTube as well. So
we will mirror that live broadcast. And perfect example, to our firm members listening, if this is something that you want to get engaged with and you want to have a conversation and take part in that in the future, let us know, and we'll get that over to Discover E. It's another perfect example of a firm being able to showcase its specialty to emerging talent. Get them hooked early, so that the student today is your employee tomorrow, right? So
exactly,
elementary school, down the line, you can get a kid hooked early.
Yeah. Don't wait till they're a senior in college.
Get them now. If you're more engaged now, that means they're a better employee tomorrow. So there is just a lot here, and it's a fantastic event. It's a great week to put a spotlight on engineering. But like you said at the outset, this is something that you do all year round, and there are activities to take advantage of throughout the year. And Discovery is your clearinghouse and resource for ideas and methods to really promote engineering. So we really encourage you to take a look there. So Thea, I know you have a busy week ahead of you, and I appreciate you taking the time today to talk to us about it. But happy E-Week.
Thank you. And happy Engineers Week to you and to all your members and everyone out there listening. Thanks for everything you guys are doing to celebrate engineers and engage our next generation. We appreciate it.
Yep. It's always fun, and we always look forward to it. So again, stay tuned. We're going to be busy this week getting content out there, and please make sure to share it. And for everyone here at ACEC, this has been Engineering Influence. We'll see you next time.